Hey y'all, before we dive into today's episode, we just want to give you a quick heads up. This episode was actually recorded about a month ago, but life. Between travel, work, and everything in between, we weren't able to get it out to you when we originally planned.
So, if you hear anything that sounds a little outdated or off timeline, that's why. We promise everything will make a lot more sense in the episodes to come. Just know we're still here, still traveling, and still in love. We
We
love
love
you
you
very
very
much.
much! Welcome back to episode 4, which is almost the same amount of weeks it's been since I had a day off for my new job at the campground.
Mhm.
So, Gracie, you're already giggling, and I know you're giggling because of me, but let's giggle a little bit more. What's the name of this episode?
This episode is titled "DooDoos and Don'ts."
Yeah. So, again, if you didn't hear the end of the last episode, that was Gracie's idea, and I'm proud of her for it. Like, she crushed this title. Um, so you want to kick us off with the first trip? Because that was kind
Yeah.
of like
Well,
the beginning of your PTSD.
let's tell you guys that "DooDoos and Don'ts" is stemming from strictly pretty much RV traveling. We've told you guys so far about our 2024 trip across the US, for all the states that we visited.
Across the Midwest.
Midwest, yeah. Well, yeah, I guess that's true. We've talked about our annual trips that we've taken. So we wanted to give you guys a little bit of background, and we're gonna start kind of going more into a little more traveling pros, cons, do's, don'ts, things like that that are gonna happen while you travel. So this will be our first kind of episode around that theme. So we want to tell you guys about what has happened to us throughout our entirety of having the RV, what's gone wrong, how we fixed it, just
What we
essentially,
learned.
yeah, essentially do do's and don'ts. Um, great. So our first trip was to Mount Airy. It was in 2023. We took it in Dink, which is the RV we're in now. It's our first one. And we had a couple of mishaps on this trip.
Yeah.
Um,
Most
so
of them were my fault, I'll admit. I
I
did the
don't like
I
to
did
say that though,
I did the
because,
outside that trip.
and this is why Gracie does the outside.
No, Gracie does not do the whole outside. Gracie does the water because I can't do the water.
Okay, let me ask you this while we have everybody listening.
Mm.
When we are staying somewhere, who does the outside?
Right now, you, because I'm working during the
I did
day.
it while we traveled the entire time too.
No.
I did the black tank
Oh,
every
the
single
black
time.
tank.
That's the outside and the water. What else is the outside? Well, I guess the electrical is the outside.
Okay, electrical. I'll take that apology on the record now. This is the first time this is ever going to happen. Go ahead. And it's not going to be the last. No, no, I'm sorry. I don't think that's heard you because I barely heard you. So go ahead, say it again.
I'm sorry.
Okay.
All right. Propane I definitely am not
Yeah, no,
doing.
you're
Electrical
certified.
I can do, but um anyways, so like I said, a couple of mishaps happened on this trip. To start with, when Tyler had hooked everything up, when you have water coming into an RV, the pipes are set up differently because you're moving it. It's not a house. So they're typically, actually, you know what? Tyler knows a little bit more about the pipes than I do. I'm not gonna lie. So,
So they're called PEC pipe versus what you have in a house, which is nowadays typically PVC. Some of your older pipes are like stainless steel, but typically nowadays it's
copper.
copper, yeah. Typically it's PVC. Um, and a lot of the campgrounds, whenever they build their system, do not rate their or put a water pressure regulator on the system as a whole because I mean, and I get it because it would be super expensive to do that. I mean, just a water pressure regulator for one single spigot is 20-30 bucks. You figure one that's massive that's going to feed an entire campground is going to be,
I think the one we got was like $12 this past time. The other ones that we get with the dial on it
yeah,
is a little more expensive.
but it's also a whole different concept. It's
Yeah.
apples to oranges even at that point. But so they're still putting out PVC graded pressure. whereas they're not putting out the peg pipe graded pressure. So you're supposed to get a water pressure regulator to put on the where the uh, water connects to your sewer or your water hose. And the reason for that is to make sure that it doesn't blow out your pipes.
Yeah.
We bought one. We did because we saw a lot of horror stories about this.
Yeah. When we first got a little snippet here, when we first got the RV, when I tell you we both did, there were a couple things that I really did versus you, but there were some things that we both kind of researched a little heavily because we had saw things that had happened. And this was our house now, and it still scares me.
Yeah. So I somehow the water pressure regulator that we bought had got left inside the RV whenever we were getting set up. So it wasn't in my, I'm taking everything out and opening it for the first time and figuring out where it goes. It wasn't out there.
Yeah,
So I didn't know, I just didn't even
it
cross my
didn't.
brain.
Yeah, it wouldn't have crossed mine either.
And so I didn't put it on. Well, the water pressure in this place, as the RV tech Gary, who was amazing, came out to tell us, was so high that it was almost at the level to where it would have broken PVC pipe. So,
Mayberry Campground. Shout out.
yeah,
I'm not gonna lie though, I like when water pressure is like that because sometimes when you get to a campground, it sucks.
yeah.
So I don't mind it being like that as long as we have a
So, yeah,
regulator.
yeah, yeah. And I mean, that's one of those things that you should not should you absolutely must have for your RV at all times.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just one of those things. But anyway, I did not plug it up,
Yeah.
and we blew the pipes out,
Yeah.
multiple pipes,
Yeah.
and two faucet fixtures. Because
Oh
remember, we had
yeah.
to replace the kitchen and the bathroom sink fixtures.
I forgot that.
Yep. So, shout out to Gary at RVRX in North Carolina.
Yeah.
That man is great, and he has saved me a ton of money on like just
He gave you
answering my
advice.
questions. Yeah.
Yeah, it was so nice.
Yeah.
Learn some stuff from him.
So, I mean, and that's a good, that's, you'll see this common theme throughout this whole podcast and our travels and adventures. We meet so many people out there that like
Hmm.
restore faith in humanity.
Oh yeah.
People that are actually really good, decent
And some
human
that aren't.
beings. Yeah.
Joan. Um,
Crazy deck lady.
okay, so our next um oh God, I forgot about that. Our next issue that arose on this trip was we found out every depending on the type of RV you have, you may have a breaker box that's anywhere. I mean, honestly, they can be,
Mhm.
let's be honest, I've seen them everywhere on other RVs. Ours just happened to be on the side of the bed, closer to the floor. Well, we very we use it all the time now.
Yeah.
We found out that for whatever reason, we are in a 30 amp. RVs, depending on the size and how many slides it has and how big it is and how much energy it's going to take, whatever the case may be, it's either usually a 30 or a 50. Those are standard. Ours is a 30. And so we found out that pretty much everywhere we go, it cannot handle having too much pull from the 30 amp. So if we have, like, if it's
And
hot,
that's any
that's any,
RV.
right, right.
Right.
But I feel like this shouldn't happen to ours.
What you're getting ready to say, yeah, should not happen.
So, like, if we have our AC on, which pulls a lot of energy, and then the fridge is constantly on, and then the TV, and then we keep the hot water on so that we can shower in hot water, it will completely trip the breaker.
Not even not even the TV. We've turned everything off except
Yeah.
the fridge and the AC and the hot water and it trips.
Yep. I mean, it's very sensitive. So we've learned, we just keep the hot water off now. And we've kind of timed it out to this point where um we will just turn it on about 15-20 minutes before we both want to take a shower and then it's fine. But I mean, it's gotten to the point where that's just like it's part of our routine. It's fine. And we've had people try to fix this, by the way,
Yeah.
because this and our central lighting doesn't work, which we're fine with the central lighting not working. We have like all the other freaking lights in here
Yeah.
work, so I'm not stressed out about it. And then our step, depending on the type of RV you have, sometimes they're pull-out steps. Ours is an electrical step, so anytime you open the door, it's going to expand out for you to step on it. Um, we've had two people now, I want to say, look at all three of those issues,
Mhm.
and none of them are fixed.
Yeah.
We've paid people to fix them, and they're still not fixed.
No, we haven't had anybody look at the
Yeah, we did.
the
Yes, we did. We did in Wilmington. Whoever that is. Yes, we did. Put it on paper. I did. I wrote it on the paper. I know you're looking at me crazy, but I did.
I thought that happened while we were on the road.
No,
The light switch broke.
no,
Oh.
nope.
Yeah.
So that we've had that issue for a long time. Um, and then trying to think. So the electrical step is a mishap, but like it is what it is. We've gotten used to that too.
Yeah.
I really wish we could figure out how to keep it out.
It's
Um,
really loud.
it's so loud and it squeaks, but I feel like it's just like I know when somebody's getting out the RV if I'm outside.
Yeah.
So I can hear it now. But yeah, so that's kind of what we've been dealing with. Just little I will tell you, every RV is gonna have its little quirks about it. And we were told that from the very beginning too. It
Yeah.
was something where you need to learn your quirks about your RV. It's like a car, a boat. They're all gonna have their little intricacies about them, and you're just gonna learn to love them.
Yeah.
So we learned to love her. And when we did go to Mount Airy, it was a little chilly.
Yeah.
And we were so unprepared for that.
Yeah. Did we have propane? I don't think we did we? Because that's why we wound up getting the heater that we've got.
The small one,
Yeah.
maybe. I can't remember. Yeah, we were cold. We were so not prepared for any of the weather that was happening. And I don't even think it got down to there's no way it got down to the 20s. And
No.
currently we were sitting in single digits 2 weeks ago in Virginia. Like
Yeah.
we are so much more prepared at this point.
Yeah. Oh yeah. 100%.
So I'll let Tyler tell you about our next trip, which is still to the same place.
No, I want you to tell this trip because I've told this trip a lot. I've never heard your version of the trip. And
Because it gives me PTSD
I
still.
know, I know, I know. And because I was asleep while it started to happen.
Yeah.
So
I'm just gonna tell you, uh, your girl is a pro, though. I'm a pro. This is like example numero uno that I just can handle stressful situations. Um, so we purchased a Blue Ox braking system. And if you don't know what that is, a lot of people, when it comes to RVs, travel trailers, fifth wheels, there's all different types that people can camp in. Um, RV Class C is what we have. Yeah, a motorhome. And so that is something that's drivable. And so you can tow something behind you instead of the opposite, where a lot of people think it's like a big truck or something that's going to be towing the actual RV, travel trailer, fifth wheel, etc. Um, so we tow our vehicle. Well, we have a Jeep Ginger, and so we really wanted to invest, honestly, because we knew we were going to go on this big trip in 2024 that we talked about. So we wanted to invest in something that we knew wasn't going to make or break the setting up and breaking down process. And so we researched heavily and we found that Blue Ox was widely known for the towing portion of for RVs and towing vehicles through for it. So that is what we ended up going with. And honestly, it was a really good investment at first. As I say at first, but we'll get into that in a little bit. Our trip to Mount Airy, it's important to know what we had because Usually, I mean, you've heard us talk about it. Tyler drives a lot, all the time. He's the one who drives. Um, well, our trip to Mount Airy, I had was driving. We were about 30 minutes out from Mount Airy, so we were really close. And I look back because Dink has a setup on her where there's a camera that points right at what you're towing. So I can see it on the screen while we drive. And next thing I know, I'm like looking at because it's almost like checking your rear view mirror because you
Mhm.
don't check your rear view mirror in Dink. So it's almost like checking it. Um, and next thing I know, I'm like really looking at it and I see the Jeep swaying ever so swiftly, like side to side. And I'm like, oh God, what is happening? So I make sure because sometimes it's like a kind of like a gray and black screen.
Mhm.
It gets you sometimes with the way the sun will
The way
shine on it.
it stuff, yeah, and shadows and shit.
Yeah. So I like looked at it for a minute and I was like, and the next thing I know, I like say, Tyler? And he like jumps up like the world's about to end, I feel like. In my mind, that's what you did.
I did.
And I was like, is the Jeep supposed to be doing that? And you like get to looking and you're like, no, pull over.
I yelled it. I think I was a lot more
But
calm than that.
you probably were, but in my mind, everything that was happening was fast, screaming, hectic, but I was not trying to exude that
Yeah,
energy because that could be the worst thing that I could possibly
yeah.
do. So I was like, okay, okay. So like I got over to the side of the road and then we were fine.
Uh-huh.
Now wait, now
No,
wait,
I was fine.
now wait. Once I got to the because I let all of that like stressful shit that just happened. Because when I say sway, I'm talking fucking
I
sway.
was looking at it.
And because cars were passing us, I was like, oh God, I'm gonna die. And so all this energy was like built up, I think. And once we got over to the side of the road, Tyler was trying to be, because he knew I was gonna be freaking out. So he was trying to keep it so calm, so collected, and I freaked the fuck out.
She started screaming at me,
I
yelling at
was
me like it was
so
my fault.
I was so, and I was stressed because the dogs were stressed. I was stressed because I was trying to get you the hammer
Mhm.
because what had happened was
And
the Blue Ox,
the
go
Jeep
ahead,
was still in the road because we couldn't
very
get it
a
off
little
it.
bit, but yes, yes,
Yeah,
it
we
was.
couldn't get it
And
all
I
the
was
way off the
scared for
road.
you because
Yeah.
it was in the road. I remember that. So what had
Let me tell you,
happened?
sorry. People on 74, 76 in North Carolina are assholes because none of them moved over
I don't think
enough.
that's the highway we were on.
Yeah, it was.
Are you
Because
sure?
we were going to Mount Airy.
Yeah, but we were 30
Oh
minutes
yeah,
away from
that's
Mount
right. That's
Airy.
right. Either way, that highway that we were on, people drivers
Yeah,
in North Carolina suck.
yeah, that's true. Including us.
Nope,
Um,
not including me. I'm a great driver.
but what had happened with the braking system is Blue Ox, they like it was so cool the way we did it though. When we got our Blue Ox stuff, we had a team set it up for us, right? I really wish that more information was put out there when they set it up, but that's okay. That was so helpful for them to set it up. They didn't have to set it up.
Yeah,
They set it up for us. Well, there's these little pins. No, I say little. They're not little.
they're
There's
like paperclip thin pins.
Yeah, but that wasn't what it was. It was the iron thing that bent.
Well, no, but that bent because
The
those
pin.
pins
Okay,
came
yeah,
out.
you're right. Okay. So it was like the little skinny, I don't even know how to explain it. It was a little skinny pin that clipped in the big, thick steel rod that was supposed to keep the Jeep in place. Tyler's gonna look up what it's called. It's closer to that one.
Yeah, they're
He's looking it up. But
yeah.
um
I mean,
any
they're called clip pins,
okay.
but like they're typically for trailers, tractors. If you have experience with a trailer or a tractor, you know what it is.
Yeah.
But basically, it's just a little pin that holds the two pieces together.
Yeah.
Um, and this thing was so small that it didn't fit around the two big pieces of metal. So eventually, over time, the vibration from the
Knocked
road,
it out.
because from North Carolina's roads also suck, it just slid it out. So one of them had come out,
Yeah.
and it the reason the metal piece on the Jeep bent was because that thing had come off and it was starting to come loose. So the hookup on the RV that connects to the Jeep wound up bending the pins on the Jeep that hold
Yeah.
the actual big pins,
Yeah.
not the clip pins. And
Tyler's on the side of the road with a hammer, just knocking the absolute crap out of these pins to try and get them remotely loose so that he could unhook the Jeep from the RV.
I tried to the first thing I did was try to just get in the Jeep and pull out. The RV came with me whenever I was backing up because you remember that? Because you started yelling, you're like, stop, the RV's moving.
I
And I was like, what? What do you mean the
don't
RV's
remember
moving?
that. I
Yeah,
probably blocked out most of what
that was
happened
the
on the side of the road.
that was the very first thing that happened because that was the first time you flipped out on me and you came over there like you walked into the middle of the road like and threw open my door screaming at me I told you the RV was moving. You're gonna break the RV too. And I was like,
Yeah, I probably did do that.
okay,
I will
sensitive
say,
time.
let's just, I apologized
She did.
afterwards.
She did. I mean, we're good now, obviously. We're still together 7 years
But
later.
that was because then I went inside originally to get you the hammer,
Yeah.
and everything was scattered because we didn't know how to like put things
Hmm.
because we were traveling. We were still learning how to like pack things down
And
and where things
we
should
weren't even full
go.
time in that at that time.
No. And we were on the side of the road and Dutch or Bell, I can't remember which one it was.
Because we didn't have Rocky at the time.
No. One of them tried to get out of the RV on the side of the highway. So you
My
didn't
guess
know.
would be Bell.
Probably, but you didn't know that because you were already at the Jeep. So that pissed me off already. So, and then everything that had happened pissed me off. So
Yeah.
it was a level of like pissed offness that I shouldn't have been, but I was
Yeah.
totally at. Um, but yeah, it's usually that way with us. You'll learn that like if one of us is pissed, the other one is typically calm in the situation.
Yeah. We worked really well
We
together.
mirror each other on that. Um, but yeah, so Jeep came unhooked. Tyler finally got everything disconnected. And then we just ended
And
up,
what we had to do was unhook the trailer hitch for the
oh,
on the RV and then back out so
yeah,
that I had to take the whole trailer hitch off of the RV and then I had to have I think you grabbed it and pulled it while I beat it with the hammer to get it
yeah,
out. So that was how we got it out. And then even then we could only get that one pin out because the other one was bent in there.
yeah,
And I had to beat that one out whenever we got back.
yep. That was so stressful. I do remember that, yeah.
But yeah,
And then we went to,
Tractor Supply.
was that what it was?
Tractor Supply in Mount Airy, and I got the ones that are thick that barely fit in there,
Yeah.
and that we have to beat out with a hammer at the end of the day
I love those things.
because
Makes me feel better.
because it expands from where it's being pulled and
They're the
everything.
best things ever. They lock by
Yeah,
key,
they have a key.
which also makes me feel better because not that we stayed in like crazy places, but
Yeah.
like I've heard actually, so I've told you guys we're in Facebook RV groups.
Mhm.
I was in one like a week or two ago, and somebody stole somebody's camper right off of their campground.
Oh my gosh.
Like they have a picture of it. Some white truck hooked themselves up to their camper and hauled it the fuck away.
Gosh.
So like knowing that now, I'm glad that our stuff hookup wise
Right.
is by key now and not just like a pin that somebody can
Yeah.
just pull out and be like, fuck you, like
Yeah.
taking your shit. Um, but yeah, so it makes me feel more comfortable. I actually don't when we traveled, I didn't even look at the camera anymore. I
Mhm.
felt super comfortable with everything back there. We'll get more into the Blue Ox issue.
But they were really cool about this. They got us a new pin, two new pins to replace the ones that bent because we
Yeah,
couldn't
they did.
reuse
Because
them.
she was like, oh, they're steel. They're not supposed
Yeah,
to
she was like,
bend.
yeah, I've literally never seen them bend before.
Customer service with them have been great
Yeah,
because
100%.
I was just it'll only take me a second. During our trip, we had a issues every single time we tried to set this thing up. I mean, when I tell you it was stressful because it would take us
On our full-time trip.
on our full-time trip.
It never happened on our trips to Mount Airy and everything.
Yeah, but after we used it for a little while, It had almost like it had like something had gone wrong with it. Like it had a
The wires had come
we
loose.
learned that the wires came loose. Um, so we didn't know that at first, and it would take us 30 minutes to press a button and have it fully connect. And then if you pressed on the brake too hard because of the wiring being loose, we now know it was unhooking itself while you're on the road driving,
Breaking.
braking. So it was just becoming like this huge hassle. It was ridiculous. I mean, it was just getting to the point where I was like, we need a different one. Like this is getting stupid.
And I am very big about like Gracie and I being in this together. So
There were a couple times where I was like, there were a couple of, not the long ones, but there were a couple of like 2 hour ones that were our shorter ones where I was like, I'll just drive. It's not a
no, it
big
was like
deal.
the 4 hour ones because
Probably because I was pissed off.
but no, because the 2 hour ones I was like, I'm just gonna drive without brakes. I'm not even gonna I'm gonna plug up
He did
the
that more than once.
yeah, I did that multiple times. Um, do not do that. That is terrible advice. I would not recommend that.
Mm-mm.
But I mean,
He'd gotten so used to it at this point.
yeah,
Yeah, but yeah, there were a couple times where I was like, all right, I just don't want to deal with it. Like, let's just go. Because in my mind, Tyler and I, campgrounds are like hotels. They have you book in at a certain time, you leave at a certain time. Now booking in at a certain time, most campgrounds are okay with you arriving late. They're always going to have some type of like system for you to arrive late because they know things happen.
yeah,
But leaving wise, you usually leave by, I think most average were like at 12
11,
or 11.
yeah,
Um, Most of them didn't go past that time frame because people were coming in.
right,
But it was most of the time it was Tyler and I were doing it on the weekends. We were traveling on the weekends because we both worked while we were traveling during our 2024 trip. And I was calculating adding in 30 minutes of extra time so that we could set up that stupid break that should have taken
yeah,
5 seconds.
yeah.
Like it had gotten that bad. And then especially during the summer months, there were some days where I would sit in the RV and I knew he was struggling with it. But sometimes I felt like when I was trying to be supportive and I learned that even though I was standing there, it almost felt like I was looking over
Yeah.
you doing it. So eventually I just stepped back and I stayed in the RV. But there were some times where it took him so long and I could tell he was getting frustrated that there were many a times where I was like, here's a black amount. Go
Yeah.
sit. I'll do it for a minute.
Yeah.
Like chill out, relax. So like I really tried to help, but it just got to be a very big nuisance. So, but like I said, their customer service was great. Once we got back home officially from that trip,
Mhm.
Tyler contacted them. They're like, yeah, that shouldn't be happening. And then they let us send in our entire like braking system.
I had to get the proof of purchase from
Oh yeah. And the
yeah.
proof of purchase came real easy. They still had it.
Yeah, yeah. I actually went to the place that did it and they still had it. No
Yeah.
problem sending it to me. So shout out to them too.
Yeah, they're awesome. That was what's the big trailer? Yes.
Leonard's trailer in Conway.
Yep. So
Conway, South Carolina.
they they were awesome too. They had it like within 2 minutes of being on the phone with you.
Yeah.
Like they
Yeah.
were so good about it. But anyways, so Blue Ox let Tyler send the entire system back, and then they I told Tyler we both think they sent us an entirely new system instead of just fixing the wires because that thing
This thing is immaculate. This thing had
ours
plastic, like the plastic covering on the sides of it and everything, like that
that
thin
thin
plastic.
plastic
Yeah.
that keeps it from getting scratched in the
Scratch and
box and
stuff.
stuff.
Yeah.
Ours was definitely scratched.
And this one is not.
It was loved. It was used. But anyways, okay. So that was a little snippet. I'm so sorry. It took a way longer than I thought. So I'll let Tyler tell you about our next trip.
So we wound up Lake Town, which is now Welcome All Pines full time
Yeah.
in 2023 May. We've talked about that. We started noticing water leaking from one of the slides and water dripping from the light
Oh,
whenever it would rain.
I like to tell Tyler I'm the problem finder.
Yeah.
He's the problem solver.
Yes.
Because I've found the cracks in the windshields
Hmm.
and
I
I've
haven't even got to those yet.
no, and but we've mentioned them.
Yeah.
And I feel like I've pretty much found every problem in the RV. I don't know if there's a
The
problem.
electrical ones I find.
Yeah, because I'm not messing with that. That's true. But like pretty much everything else, because because I'm paranoid. I'm
Water you
paranoid.
find, electrical I find.
Yeah, I'm paranoid about stuff. So go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I'm the same way about electrical
Yeah.
stuff. Um, so I got to looking and noticed on the two slides that there was some like some things didn't look right.
Some bubblage.
Yeah, some bubblage on
Still
the
there.
tops. Yeah, it's still there. Sorry. That's character. Um, so we finally took it to Cape Fear Custom RV, who is no longer in business. They are now part of Rex and Sons in Wilmington. Um, so we took it to him, and the sweeper seal on one of our slides had gone bad. Basically, not so bad that it was non-existent at that point. So nothing was stopping water from getting in. I mean, and the water, like where we sit during the day for like work and stuff, is our dinette, and there's a light fixture above us.
Mhm.
Water was coming from the light fixture, and I was like, "Oops, that's no bueno." So we did get that taken care of. I mean that one we couldn't really do. I mean we could, but you know, time, money, things like that. Because the seals alone were the most expensive part. The installation was the cheapest part of the whole thing.
I wouldn't even know where to start. I mean, we could figure it out if
Yeah,
we needed to, but like,
let the pros do stuff like that. So, and then after Lake Town, you know where we went. We went to Mississippi. What happened to Mississippi, Gracie?
both, both of our vehicles, so Dink and Ginger, both got a crack in the windshield.
Well,
Well,
Dink
not at the
was a
same
chip.
time.
Dink was a chip.
It's still a
Ginger,
crack.
no, Ginger was a fucking crack.
It was bigger than a quarter.
$1 bill.
I thought they said,
I know it.
was it?
Yeah, but ours was $1 bill. Yeah,
Okay. Yeah, we cracked the windshields.
not we cracked it. Somebody else did. It was a
Oh
truck.
yeah, but we had to get that fixed. That wasn't, it is what it is. It was funny riding around with tape on the windshield. Because like they tape once they like adhere it to your vehicle,
Yeah,
they tape it down, and typically they tell you if you don't need to drive it, don't drive it. But like
we had to leave the next
we
day.
had to leave, so we drove around with tape on the Jeep. So it's fine. I'm sure we looked ridiculous to other people. But that one wasn't terrible, I wouldn't say.
Yeah,
Like it happens. We knew, honestly, we had talked about it too. And I was like, it's so ridiculous. We've had this for so long and like we've not had a cracked windshield and we go get a cracked windshield as soon as we stop on our first big trip. So it was lovely. That leads us into our next trip, which was Arkansas. And as much as I would love to tell you my side of this, I will go ahead and let Tyler tell you his side.
okay, so I mean,
Hmm.
technically, um, it was on the way from Arkansas to our next place,
Okay.
which was Oklahoma, I believe. Yeah, Shawnee. And we were at the KOA in Arkansas filling up our propane. And I just happened to notice that there may or may not have been a nail in the tire. So I decided I was going to drive the whole way so that if anything happened, Gracie didn't freak out because I've been around tires my whole life and blowouts and things like that. So I know that when a tire blows, especially one on a vehicle like Dink, it is loud
Hmm.
and it will scare the absolute shit out of you. So I didn't want that to happen to Gracie. So I drove the whole way while monitoring because we had right, Gracie had a
You
tire
you
pressure.
like to put little jabs out there for thing, the one thing that I did.
You like to
But you
put
see,
jabs out there.
when you did the water, when you said, I said, no, it's okay. It's fine. Things happen. It's okay. Go ahead and say that to me. Can you? Because you haven't said it yet about this problem.
I'm gonna go ahead and tell you, my mistake still did not cost as much. That's what yours is. And I
Yeah.
blew out the water pipes. So
Well,
I have forgiven you, but it's still funny.
yeah.
You can't laugh. You can't laugh. Anyway, the nail was in the tire, so I drove all that way and was the whole time watching the tire pressure. I'm like, and it's going down and down, and I'm like, oh my God, like I just gotta get there. I just gotta get there. And I'm like, in my mind, I was calculating how many like uh pounds of air we were losing per hour of driving versus what we had left. Like I was going through like doing these complex math equations in my head to figure out if we were gonna make it.
Oh my God. I had no idea. And I was in La La Land. Like I
Yeah,
had no idea this was going
yeah.
on.
And so we get to Shawnee and I get out and Gracie gets out and she's like, "Are you okay?" I was like, "Yeah." I was like, "There's a nail in the tire." She's like, "Oh, how long has it been in there?" I was like, since we left Arkansas." And she was like, "Is that why you didn't let me drive?" I'm like,
Yeah.
"But I knew I could handle it and I didn't want to put her in a situation where she didn't have to handle it." And we weren't losing air pressure at a rate where it really made me nervous that it was going to happen, but I'm still the better safe than sorry kind of person.
Yeah, yeah. I
And
get it.
but we did wind up getting the tire patched. So
Yeah. I'll let you say that too though, because I don't know anything about that. Because
oh shoot, I forgot about Brandon.
yeah.
Brandon, remember whenever we got to Arkansas? So
I
before we
remember
left,
it, but I don't know anything about it.
yeah, so whenever we got to Arkansas, I forgot all about that. Um, and we got set up, our fridge wouldn't work, and a couple of our outlets wouldn't work. And I am by no means an electrician. I hate working with electricity. I've gotten a lot better at it over the past 2 years than I
Yeah.
used to be. Um, but at the end of the day, after I shock myself 3 times, I'm going to call in the experts. So I found a mobile RV mechanic, Brandon Roach in Arkansas. Great guy. Love him. Part of the reason that I want to go to back to Arkansas is just so that he can come work on my stuff and I can hang out with him. Like that's how cool of a guy he was. So, um, he, I mean, that dude was here for like a day trying to figure out what it was because the wiring in this thing is so weird and which we have learned recently.
Yeah.
But so he finally figured out that the heating element in the fridge was going bad, which was tripping the circuit, which is what all the outlets, which are in random places in the RV, they're not even all in the same little area, were connected to the fridge. So when the fridge was tripping, it was tripping all of these.
Mm-hmm.
So he had to replace the heating element. And he wound up getting one like the next day and coming
Yeah.
back and replacing it. Yeah, it was awesome.
Yeah, he was great. He had great customer service. Um, his dad actually sells RVs. They're like in the RV business. They got their hands in it. But
Yeah.
I was like, if we ever buy another one, I want to go see him instead because I just liked his son so much. Like
Yeah.
they were so nice. Um, so okay, so our next one is going to be what happened in Colorado. This is what we were just talking about, where I was like, he never lets me catch a break about this. Um, so we've talked a little bit about Colorado. That was where it had snowed. Um, and what had happened, what, because
That's how every good
it
story
hadn't
starts. What had
snowed.
happened
Yeah,
was
it wasn't snowing before we got there.
no, no, no. It snowed like the
The weekend after we
the
got there,
weekend at or like the week
and then it
in
stayed
ish. Yeah,
snow,
yeah,
and
yeah.
then it stayed. But
Like Virginia.
but what what had happened was Tyler's GPS, the way that this I will say the Colorado campground we stayed at, very sweet people. The person that manages it, she was so nice. I hate the campground. Um, just for a number of reasons. It was very, very small. I'm talking like maybe what was it, one, two, three or four rows of 4 to 5 RVs, and they were pretty stacked on top of each other. There's a tiny little yard. Um, it was very, very small, which was fine. But anyways, that's besides the point. So what I was trying to tell you was it's kind of stuck in the middle of being right beside a laundromat and then beside residential houses on a dirt road. So what they've done is they've put up like a white fence and then another white fence on each side of the campground. And on the other side there were like shops or something. Um, but the GPS, for whatever reason, the way that it's wired is it did not take us straight to the campground. It was trying to take us on the residential dirt road and then make us do a little U-ey and then get into the campground. So that's where Tyler's GPS had taken us at that point. Well, at that point, we realized the campground was right behind the white fence. So we decided the dirt road was very large. We decided to go ahead and just unhook the Jeep there. Um, I don't know why, but the tire pressure sensor box this was another thing, including Blue Ox, that we had looked into, and Tyler was very adamant because I didn't get why, but I get now why you would want it. Because it showed all four tires and
Six.
I'm sorry, all six, yeah, that's right, all six tires, and what their pressure was, just to keep an eye on it while you drive. Well, I don't know why I had it in my hands. My best guess is that it was falling because sometimes it wouldn't stick to the dash. And I probably had,
It was beeping because it was because we had disconnected the Jeep and we couldn't figure out how to turn it off. We still didn't know how to turn it off at the time. And I was in the RV trying to get it backed up and go around on that, like, because you were freaking out because I was getting ready to go up on that sand hill and it was pissing me off. So I was like, here, take this damn thing and turn it off.
oh, so you're the culprit that gave it to me. Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay. So anyways,
I'm not the culprit who lost it.
don't know what happened to it. So anyways, I guess I took it. I literally don't remember this exchange, by the way. Probably because it was a little hill of sand. And the light pole was there. But Tyler thinks he's like fucking Superman in this thing when he's driving it. And I was like, you've got to back. He wouldn't keep backing up, and he had plenty of room. And instead of backing up some more, he decided he would go up on the hill. I was like, oh my God, our whole RV, our house is going to tip over on the side,
Are we
and
still
we're
in that
going to
same
be
RV?
homeless. Yes.
Did it flip
Um,
over?
anyways, um,
That's a no.
so I guess I took this sensor box with me, and it's very small. Like it's not big whatsoever. It's probably the size of like the width of an iPhone and a half.
Yeah.
It was not big at all.
Yeah.
Um, so I guess I took it. My thought was that I probably just put it in the Jeep. And so we got parked and we were getting set up and everything. And that it was forgotten about.
Yeah.
Poof, gone, don't even know, right? Well, then we were getting ready to we were starting getting to get everything set up because it is solar powered.
Hmm.
And so it was starting to become a habit to make sure our reflective wasn't on the front of the RV and the sun could shine in a day or so before we left on the tire pressure sensor box. So it was being solar powered and it would have power to it. We realized a couple days before we left that we didn't have it. And I was like, okay, well, we completely cleaned out the Jeep. Couldn't find it. And I was like, well, it can't be far. Like, literally, Jeep RV. There's not a lot of places it can be. So I completely did the Jeep. I completely did the RV. Tyler also did. Like, we both did. I did again because he was angry that I lost it. So I did again just to be sure one of us didn't miss it. We couldn't find it anywhere. So we decided to keep moving on. I think we've ended up at the point where we think probably what happened was I most likely put it on the Jeep instead of in the Jeep, and it
Yeah.
probably fell on the dirt road that we never went back on.
Yeah. And I mean, it had snowed.
It had snowed. It probably got driven on,
Yeah.
snowed on, everything. So, yeah.
Yeah.
That was like a 300, 350, 400.
Yeah.
$400 purchase down the drain because I didn't put it in the Jeep, so that was lovely. But I will say that was probably that was my big
That was.
that was my biggin.
That
That
was.
was my
My
biggin
big one comes next on the way to Kansas from Colorado.
that we haven't fixed yet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So my responsibility whenever we pack up is always sewer, electricity on the outside, and on the inside, it's just making sure everything's
Whatever
cleaned
else
up.
isn't
Right,
done.
right.
Yeah. Because
Gracie
usually
does.
I do the inside,
Right,
a lot of the heavy lifting on the
right.
inside the day before we pack up.
And Gracie does the just unhooks the water hose and everything.
Yeah.
And so I guess I just forgot to close all the tanks. Um, and so we on the way to Kansas, that was whenever the issues really started to get bad with the braking system, like more frequent,
Mm-hmm.
and we had to keep pulling over to get to,
That
do
was
that
so
stuff.
annoying.
So we had pulled into this church parking lot. Well, it had a huge divot, and I heard something. I was like, oh, that doesn't sound good. But church was in service, and it wasn't a through parking lot, so I had to figure out a way to turn around. Well, this parking lot was so tight because there were so many cars in it. We had to unhook the Jeep, move the Jeep, and then I had to move the RV, like do a 3-point turn in the RV to get it back around to where we could hook up the Jeep. And yeah, it was a mess.
It was a nightmare.
Yeah. So then we get to Kansas, we're getting set up, and I'm looking and I'm like, huh, there's only 2 handles on there now. And there was 3.
It popped off.
The water reservoir tank handle broke, so we cannot use that
Yeah.
right now. Yeah, so that was my big one. That was
Yeah.
yeah, the one that I and also in Kansas, we almost ran out of wasn't that whenever we almost ran out of gas in the Jeep?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, we went to Dodge City
Yeah.
from where did we stay in Kansas? Hayes?
Yeah.
We stayed in Hayes, Kansas. We went from Hayes, Kansas to Dodge City. There was a stretch of road for like literally 65 miles. There was not a gas station. Literally, and that is not an exaggeration.
No. That was some stressful, and it was some Jeeper Creepers looking gas
Yeah.
station too that had
I
gas.
I had about we were 115 miles from Dodge City or something like that, and I had 75 miles to eat. So I was like, I'm just gonna go and then, we'll stop on the road to get gas. 65 miles. 65 miles.
We were real close to,
Oh,
I
it
don't know.
I mean, and it was over 65 miles because eventually the gas gauge read, you need gas. Get gas. And I think we've told this story before, so I'm not gonna like get way too into it, but the gas station that we stopped at was like real sketch. The first one we stopped at like didn't even sell gas, even though they had the gas pumps.
And at least it had people in it.
Yeah. And then the other one was closed, but they had like old
Jeepers
50s.
Creepers
Yeah.
looking gas station pumps.
Yeah. Like and it was so weird because they were like vintage gas pumps, but they ran off of credit cards.
It was,
That was the only reason we were able to use it because they ran off of credit cards.
yeah,
And I was like, what is going on here?
that was so terrible. I hated
Yeah.
that. Okay, so then we headed on to Ohio. Um, so this was neither one of our faults.
Actually, well, we didn't head from Kansas to Ohio. We had
No.
we had some good times in between where
Yeah,
we didn't have any issues.
yeah, we did have,
So,
yeah, we didn't have an issue in every state, by the way. Um, so we were going to Ohio. This issue was definitely not any of our faults. But our, I will say, when we first stayed at Mount Airy, we did not have, we actually did have one, but we didn't know we had one.
yeah,
We
it
did not
came
have a
with the
surge.
RV, but we didn't know what it was whenever we got it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we didn't have a surge protector. Which, if you are ever going to RV and hook up to electricity,
Get a
you
surge protector.
need one. It's a, you can get the cheapest one out there and it's still going to do the same job. Well, someone that I'm married to, didn't want to get the cheap one. And so, which I'm not even going to lie, I'm so glad he got this one.
Yeah.
It's a Watchdog. It's one of the better brands of
Yeah.
it. Um, but it hooks up to your phone. Like
Mhm.
it's a Bluetooth. So that way if something trips, which thank God we had, honestly, thank God we had it because we would have been going outside to fucking redo the amp all the time. Well, while we were learning
Yeah.
what was going on.
If it wouldn't have fried our
Yeah.
cord. Yeah.
So unfortunately, while we were in Ohio, the place we were staying at, I don't know, we think it's the place we were staying at.
Yeah. And this isn't a knock on the park like at all.
No.
This was one of our favorite parks.
Yeah, I love
Camp
this park.
Sandusky. Yeah.
But I don't know what was going on with it, but it fried our electrical port,
Yeah.
which we still need to get fixed.
Yeah.
Um, that's got to be something we've got to do
Yeah.
soon. But yeah, so we've got to fix that. It's like fried off.
Like
Not, it still worked.
but it's loose. Like the plastic on the cable has melted. So
Mhm.
like you got to be real careful when you're unplugging it because I'm almost afraid that it's going to come out
Yeah,
and be stuck into the plug.
yeah,
So
yeah. So we need to fix that. So that was something that was definitely not either of our faults.
yeah.
And that is honestly why. Because I was helping out with the electricity up until that point. I now don't touch it
Yeah.
because I'm scared I'm gonna make it worse. And honestly, I Tyler has the mindset of, okay, well if it F's up, it F's up. Like it's fine. You gotta do what you gotta do. And I don't have that. I'd be mad at myself for days if I messed it up.
Yeah.
And so I'd rather him handle it. Um, yeah. And then just quickly, because
Yeah.
Tyler will make this a long story. We're gonna make it a short story because we've talked about it.
Oh yeah.
We've chatted about it already. While we were in Pennsylvania, um, which is one of our closer to the inn, um, we locked ourselves out of the RV.
On 4th of July.
Just a very, very helpful hint. Whatever kind of lock and key system you use for your RV, put an extra one in your car. Put an extra one somewhere that you know is it's gonna be at. Because I I wish that we would have done we do that now.
Hmm.
We have two separate keys so that we something God forbid happens, we do not lock ourselves out of the RV again.
Hmm.
Um, I've actually learned. I told Tyler this the other day. We locked our RV the other day, and there's two different locks on our RV. He was locking one, and then he was unlocking it, and he twists it back. So when you twist it back, it's not like a regular lock.
It's locking it back.
It's locking it
Gotcha.
back. And so
That's
I was
probably what
locked
I
out of
did
the
too.
RV that day. You were in here. Like it wasn't a big deal,
Mhm.
but you had unlocked it for me. But yeah, I learned that that's what was happening was
Yeah.
just with our new lock. But so that's
But
probably
real quick though, before because this I've just thought about something that happened that we haven't talked about before this that's very key for this.
mm,
So when we got to Shittown, USA with the pit bull ban,
oh yeah.
the the latch on those doors.
'Cause this is our new lock.
Yes, the
Oh my
latch on the
gosh.
RV broke. I
Yeah.
went to go open it, and because it was just a piece of plastic, and this is a 2008,
Yeah.
I think just from it being used so much now after not being used for so long, it just kind of gave out. So we didn't have a lock on the door for a night while
Yeah.
we were
You
in
went and got one.
yeah, I had to go and get one from freaking Camping World
It
because
was
it
the
was
closest place.
the only place like within 100 miles that sold RV stuff.
Yeah.
So I had to go there and get a new lock,
Yeah.
and so with that new lock, it came with two sets of keys,
Yeah. Yeah. So we've learned
and both sets of keys were in the RV whenever we locked ourselves out of them in
that was a
Pennsylvania.
very expensive learning
Yeah.
uh curve. Oh my God. Because
So
it was on
4th of July,
4th of July weekend. So
it
and
was
then
a really
we've talked
expensive.
about this already in one of our previous episodes. So if you want to hear the story, definitely go there. But anyways, so that was really our last the lockout of the RV was pretty much our last issue that we had until we got back home.
Yeah.
And I will say, I know this was very like a issue, but like
You got to think,
these didn't, now that I've laid them out, it didn't feel like that.
and that was over that's over 2 years.
Now, well, the Mount Airy ones were very at the very beginning,
That's what I'm saying. All of these issues have been over 2 years,
but what
and that's not a lot of issues for 2 years.
the windshields, the nail, the fridge, the water tank reservoir, the tire pressure box, the melted power cord, and then the locked out of the RV. Those were all in 8 months of
Yeah.
us traveling almost every week.
Yeah.
Like there were some places where we stayed 2 weeks, some places we stayed a week, and some
Yeah.
places we stayed only one place we stayed for a month.
Yeah.
So like we were traveling constantly. And mind you, this RV is old and it didn't get a lot of attention
Yeah.
and people weren't living in it full time like
Yeah.
we were when we got it. So of course we knew when purchasing it that things like this were going to happen.
Yeah.
But that takes us to now Waccamaw Pines, which was Lake Town. And I'll let Tyler tell you.
Oh my gosh.
This is our last thing. This is our last
No,
set of
you tell
things.
this because really, if I would have listened to you, it wouldn't have happened. So
Okay,
I'm gonna
well,
let you tell the story because
wow, you'll never hear that again.
you're the hero. I know this is the first. If you haven't listened to any other episode, this is the episode you need to listen to because you're gonna hear stuff that will never be said again in our lifetime.
So on our entire trip, we have an awning. Most RVs do have an awning.
Had an awning.
Um, yeah, and we had never taken it out on our trip.
Yep.
It was not something that we wanted to do, honestly. We were traveling so much, it was an extra step, to be honest. And so we didn't even try it. I had no idea if there were holes in the awning. I had no idea what type of like shape it was in. So once we got to Waccamaw Pines and we had set up our site, we had gotten fencing for the dog. We got turf grass to put out there because um owner of the Waccamaw Pines, RJ, he is amazing. He was putting out grass seed, like he's really getting that park to look amazing. But I was so tired of the dirt and sand coming into the RV, so I told Tyler I really wanted to get something out there, and I decided on the turf grass. So our site was looking beautiful, and we actually finally started talking about taking the awning out. Well, we learned how to do it. It took us a while to do it. It took us
A couple days to get it
It's
right.
just 4 tries together to get it done. Um, but thank God we did. We watched a couple videos. YouTube can be your best friend when trying to learn things in an RV, and the Facebook groups. Again, I will say that. Sometimes if you ask dumb questions, the RV groups are not nice, but overall, most people are pretty informative about things. Um, but anyways, so it was a really windy day. And Tyler and I were both working. And right now, we have reflective everywhere. You'll learn about reflective if you ever start traveling in an RV. It goes in the windows. It's going to help keep heat out, cold out. But even on hot days, it'll keep the cold in, like your AC in. So super helpful stuff. It's the ugliest stuff in the world, but I don't care if I'm not going to be cold or hot. Um, so we had taken that off the windows because the awning was creating shade and it was so pretty. And I looked at Tyler one day and it was super windy and I was like, "Oh God, Tyler, the one whole side of the left side of the RV awning arm had completely gone up. So the whole awning was on one side was up and the other side was staying down and still the way it was supposed to." And I was like, "Something's wrong. There's no reason it should be doing this." And so I went outside and fixed it, and I told Tyler about it. And next thing I know, a second big old gust of wind came through. The whole awning had flipped up on top of the RV, snapped both arms off, and it was hanging on by the pure like the tarpy
The
part
fabric.
of the awning mat. Yeah. So Tyler had to get on top of the RV on our broken ladder and um cut it off. And we had to thank God RJ, like I said, RJ is great. He took it
Yeah.
and he threw it away for us. But like we yeah, our whole awning arms, everything is off of it. We don't have an awning anymore. It
Yeah.
doesn't exist.
Yeah.
The
And
brackets are effed.
yeah, and it wound up cracking the AC cover, and ripping the slide cover on the other side.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that.
Mhm.
Yep.
So we got to get those fixed.
Yep.
Yeah. Luckily, insurance will cover that. But
Yeah, we haven't done that yet because once that happened, um, it kind of it was something that we had to start working on, and we started looking into the insurance. Like Tyler had talked to the insurance people and stuff like that, but then this whole Virginia stuff came
Yeah.
up, and it got pushed to the back. So,
Yeah.
I would love an awning before summer comes around.
Mhm.
It's
I've got
so
a guy.
nice.
Got a guy.
Oh yeah, that's good.
His name is Robert.
All right, Bob.
No, don't call him Bob.
All right, Rob.
So, yeah. Um, but yeah, and that was, but I mean, that's been our biggest. Like, we've had a few small things that you're gonna have happen, like no matter what, that aren't like huge. Like, for example, water freezing and things like that. Um,
I'm
we
gonna have an episode on all water or black tank because let me tell you something. The black tank is the grossest thing ever, but it is the one thing that I feel like I now know like the back of my hand.
what is the name of that episode gonna be?
I don't know yet. I've got to figure because this one's do-dos and don'ts. So I got to make it a good one. But I'll talk about all thing tanks, honestly, because fun fact, my dad and my mom used to
Mhm.
live in an RV. So when we first got this one, my dad had come over to help Tyler wash it and everything. And so he was showing us the tanks. And this is how you close them. This is how you open them. Like, because we had no clue. We had zero knowledge about this stuff. So I was standing there watching them do it. And I was like, ah, I don't need this. Tyler's gonna learn how to do it. But then I started reading stuff online, about poop pyramids. And I've learned about how the tanks can be backed up and the type of toilet paper you should be using. And when I tell you I did such a deep dive, and I still do, I will still stay up at night sometimes and I will deep dive on this stuff to learn even more. Um, so I've learned about the freezing pipes. I'm very cautious about that. Just saying last night it got like 20, it got to be like 22 here last night.
Mhm.
And Tyler, I love him, but he was
No,
like,
29.
no, it was below. I told you it was below freezing.
Okay,
24 is below freezing.
32 is below.
Or sorry, maybe it was
I'm
29
gonna
last
cut
night.
that.
No, it's fine. Anyways, I looked it up last night. Did I say 24? That's
You
probably
said 29 was freezing and 24 was below freezing.
really.
Yeah.
I was even thinking
But
something
last
else, but
night
it's
you
okay.
said,
No, 32. I looked it up last night.
I
See, it's
know
still on
that's
my
what you said
Google.
last night, but on just right now you just said 29 was
I'm
freezing.
stupid right now, but
No, you're not.
32 degrees is
You're just a
freezing. I
silly
just can't
goose.
remember that. Who remembers? I mean, I know some people remember that, but that is not something that's in my bank of knowledge to remember. Um, anyways, it was getting below 32, and you can get heated hoses to plug in, which we have. And honestly, I will say Madison Vines is great. Their maintenance team came out, and before the big snow happened, they came through and they did heat tape on everybody's water valves. And there's this black bag that's insulated that they cover it with. So it's like extra protection to make sure it doesn't freeze. When it got in single digits, it's gonna freeze.
Yeah.
But last night, Tyler's laying on the couch and he was like, "No, don't worry about it. Just keep the water on." And I just looked and I was like, I don't know why I asked him. Like, I'm actually gonna listen. I'm gonna go turn it off because I'd rather be safe and not have it for the night. We just honestly we fill up a couple gallons of water and we use that to flush. Um, and to do like wash my face, brush our teeth, wash dishes if we need to, whatever. Um, but like I I will not have a frozen pipeline that busts for
Yeah.
us to have to fix. For me to take 2 seconds to go out there and push down on a lever.
Yeah.
I can't, my mind can't comprehend it. So there are things like that like you'll start to really learn. But always feel free to, if you're starting this adventure and you're listening to this podcast, feel free to send us a message. Either one of us are happy to answer it for you. Or I'm happy to send you videos that I've watched. I'm happy to send you some Facebook groups if you wanted to be a part of them.
Yeah.
They're really easy to find though. But yeah, we're happy to help out wherever we can for our newcomers that just have questions.
Yeah. Maybe one day we'll create our own Facebook group with a network of RVers in the Adventure with Coffee podcast community. So maybe we'll leave that as our poll for this week, this coming up week.
Like it, like it. But Anyways, that is kind of our do-dos and don'ts of what's happened currently to us. And if you have any questions whatsoever, definitely, like I said, feel free to reach out to us. We are super happy to help. And hopefully on our next episode, you'll tune in to listen in.
Yeah, because I think it's going to be all about the real stars of our lives, Belle, Dutch, and Rocky. That's going to be an episode completely dedicated to them. The different things that we've had to learn living with them in a small space and how they've reacted to it and bringing on Rocky,
Yeah.
going from 2 to 3 and
I will say I do see on our Facebook groups a lot of questions get asked about how do you do this for your pets? How do you do this for your pets? What are the rules for other campgrounds that you've seen for pets? So we're going to go through all of that too because we have been to quite a few campgrounds and there are definitely different rules for different campgrounds and um we've definitely learned a lot about living with pets in a small space. So we hope you tune in if you like your furry babies just like we do. And you live in a small space, even if it's not an RV, if it's an apartment.
yeah.
Small spaces, regardless, we have some tips and tricks about that. Way to store things and just all around just some good information.
Yeah.
And we hope that you want to hear about it.
So, until next time, we love you.
So much.
Who lives in RV, traveling estates, adventure with coffee, driving dink all over the place, adventure with coffee, with 3 pups who are cuddly as can be, adventure with coffee, the happiest little traveling family, adventure with coffee, adventure with coffee, adventure with coffee, adventure with coffee. Until next time.